Hello and welcome. So our domain controller exchange server for both sides are now ready. And in our previous lab, we created some user mailboxes, we created some distribution groups, and you already know how to do that now. So it's time to test our Outlook. And how can we test that? By installing an operating system for our client. So in this lab, we will be installing Windows 8.1 for our Sacramento office. And how can we do that? They steps are quite simple. So same steps: create a new virtual machine. Uh, Typical. Browse. This time we will not be selecting our ISO for our Windows Server 2012. So you can see that Windows 8.1 is detected. Next, no license key for now. Browse and the location where your uh, virtual machine is going to be stored. So this is for our Sacramento office. And how are you going to name it? So the naming convention for your client machines are also very important. So this is going to be Sacramento EJO, and this is for finance department, for example. And this is a laptop 01. So Sacramento LMGO Finance Department 01. So that's how I want to name it. So the virtual machine name is going to be the same. So I can copy and paste it from here and press next. How much disk space you want to use for this? For now, I will just use 20 for our lab purposes, and I'll just finish this. So once it is created, it will turn on, and then we will install our operating system for Sacramento office. And once we do the installation, the next step is to rename the computer, and we will also have to join it to the domain. So once we join it to the domain, the next step will be installing Microsoft Office or Outlook for our client operating system, and then we will be ready to test one of our users. So let's see how it will proceed. So it is now restarting, and it will take a little bit of time. Alright, so it is now restarted, and once it restarted, then we will be able to log in, and then we will do the next steps. So we are almost ready, and it is now setting up the profile. So let's wait for it, and once our profile is set up, then we will be able to do the other configuration. And one thing that I want to mention in here is, for most of you, installing a Windows operating system like 8.1 is really easy. But one thing that I really want to mention for those who are thinking that why I'm covering these kind of things, if like most of the people they already know, I'm just making sure that those who don't know how to do the exchange configuration like from the scratch, and how to do the client configuration like they are in a practical environment. As you know, in my course demo, I said that we will be learning our exchange server from the scratch, and you will be learning everything in practical. So I want to make sure that for those who are the beginners, they know how to just run the exchange server, how to configure exchange server, and do the configurations step by step. So I hope that you're not getting bored. And for those who are already familiar with the installing of Windows Server or Windows 8.1, they can just skip. But for those who are the beginners, or for those who really wants to know like how to step by step configure Exchange for client, like and then Exchange servers, and like installing operating system, so it is very useful video for them. So um, all right, so it is now telling us that it already loaded the profile, and we are in now. So the first step that we will do is we will just right click and go to setting again, and then in here network adapter host only, press OK, so that this computer can communicate with other operating systems. in our virtual lab. So go to properties of the network connection, and we are going to assign an IP address for this 10.10.254.100. I'll start with 100 because I want to make sure that we are using IP addresses for our client operating systems in a way that they are totally different, uh, in a different range from our servers. So 53 and 54 as an alternative DNS, and I'll press OK. Close this one again. The first thing that you will do is you will do the CMD and make sure that it can resolve the DNS name. NS lookup, as you can see that it can resolve. Now it means that we will be able to join this computer to the domain. So this PC, properties, uh, then advanced system settings, computer name, and change the computer name in here. So the computer name is going to be Sac Joe, and this is going to be for finance department, and this is a laptop and 01. So I'll press OK in here, and once we press OK, I should restart this computer, because if you remember that when we rename a computer name, either if it's a computer name or it's a server name, you have to restart it. If you don't restart it, what's going to happen is that when you join it to the domain, it is going to join that computer to the domain with an old name. So that's a big thing. That's a big problem or issue that you can face in your network, or in your environment. So always make sure that when you rename a computer or a server name, you always restart it. So once again, this PC, right click, properties, and then advanced system settings, computer name, change, and this time we are going to join it to the domain. So this is going to be elmjotech.local, and it is going to ask the username and password for our domain controller. So whoever is authorized, or whoever have got privilege to join this computer to the domain, they can use their credentials. It is not necessary that it should be administrator. So if you create an account in AD, so if you go and create an account in AD for Jeff, for example, and you make Jeff as a member of domain admins, Jeff will be able to join computers to the domain, servers to the domain, and he will be able to manage your domain controller. And if you really want to be specific, so what you can do is you can configure delegation in Active Directory. So elmjotech.local, that didn't work because I think it was the issue with the password. I think I just typed incorrect password. That's why it just pops up an error for me. So let's wait and see what we will get. Alright, so it tells me that welcome to elmjotech.local domain. So this computer is now ready, and we will restart it. So after this lab, we will be installing Microsoft Outlook 2016, and then we will be configuring it so that we will be just using the credentials for one of our user accounts in Sacramento, and then we will be configuring the Outlook for them. And then once we set up the same thing for the New York, then we will be sending email from Sacramento to New York server and New York to Sacramento. So we will be testing all our recipient configurations that we did in our recipient configuration section on this course. So I hope you have learned something, and I'll see you next video.